Xbox boss Phil Spencer addresses Redfall's disastrous launch and negative reviews. Oh, here we go.
It is no secret that Xbox has been having a really rough couple of weeks, from the UK CMA blocking the Activision Blizzard acquisition that Xbox had so much riding on, to the disastrous launch of Redfall, which is one of the most disappointing and disastrous AAA video game launches in recent memory.
But is it really? Because I feel like we've had like 5 of these recently. And that's not even counting the indie. I feel like we've had a lot.
It's a first-party title to boot, which makes optics that much worse. Looking at the review scores right now for Redfall on Xbox Series X, from 49 critic reviews, we're looking at a Metascore of below 60%, 59, and a user score of 2.7. Going to the PC version, it doesn't fare much better. The Metascore is at 57%, and the user score is even worse on PC at 1.8. Because the game just really doesn't run well on PC, and it also doesn't run on consoles well either, and not to mention the game is just bland, lacking in...
Well, that's, I think, the thing that a lot of people aren't talking about. Everybody talks about how Redfall is buggy, but nobody talks about how even if it wasn't buggy, it would still be bad. Like, my understanding is that Redfall is a game that's a 2 out of 10 with bugs, but even if there were no bugs, it would still only be a 4 out of 5 out of 10. It doesn't even matter.
The creative imagination that we're so used to seeing from Arcane, combined with just how underbaked it is, lacking in content, lacking in just so many different areas that I've detailed in previous videos. And then on OpenCritic, if we look at the score here, you'll find a top critic average score of 61%, but I think more important is the percentage of critics who'd actually recommend this game despite the score, and that's where we see a disastrous score of 19%.
Yeah, exactly. That's pretty fucking bad. I do find it, I've said this many times, I find it very problematic that critic scores are so vastly different than user scores. It's like critics clearly are not in line with their audience, and I think that's bad.
19% of critics who would recommend this title, not very many. And then if we go to Steam and look at user reviews, things don't fare much better, with the game sitting at a mostly negative review score of 31% from 1,238 reviews. That makes it one of the worst user-rated games of all time on Steam. In fact, if we look at the...
Dude, I can't wait until I get the new PC and I play these games, and I can play every single one of them with like a fucking top-of-the-line PC, and everybody can see that the game still doesn't fucking run right. Oh, it's going to be so good. Like, I think that Jedi Survivor is going to be the last game that I won't be able to do that with. It's going to be... Oh, it's going to be great. I'll be right back. It's not about being in the line. I reviewed a game before, and the developer didn't like it. I got cut from being flown out from previews, etc. This is actually true. Like, it's not about being in line. I reviewed a game before, and developer didn't like the review. I'm assuming that's what he means, didn't like it. I got cut from being flown out for previews, etc. So it's just dick riding for access, probably. I think that you're total... I actually completely believe you. I completely believe you. Absolutely.
of Shame website that keeps track of the worst rated games on Steam of all time. You can see that Redfall has place in the top 20 with the score here displaying a 28%, but even if it is that 31%, it still makes it to the top 20. So this is just a really bad look for Xbox as a platform, who has not been able to output quality first-party releases consistently to really draw people to the Xbox platform. And Xbox Game Pass still has that value and a great library of games, but it does.
It's crazy because I'm sorry, I'm just thinking a little bit more about the review thing. I think that there are a lot of people on YouTube that actually give really, really, really good reviews, right? Like that Mortismal Gaming guy that plays the entire fucking game and then he reviews it. I think he's great. Skill Up is fucking amazing. I think there's like, yeah, Skill Up is probably Angry Joe. I haven't seen a lot of Angry Joe's reviews, honestly. But it's like, even for me, I feel like I try my best to give a review and be as fair as possible. And if people feel like I'm not being fair in a review, I will look and I'll think to myself, okay, why do they think that? What is it really? I actually really try to make sure I'm as fair as possible.
need to be fueled by high-quality first-party releases. And I feel like for Xbox, you know, you got Halo Infinite, but the launch of that has been rough, and its post-launch has been rough as well. And now so much is riding on Starfield, but there are now doubts about that because of the precedent that Redfall set, not to mention the numerous delays on the part of Starfield that may indicate, you know, maybe that there is trouble in paradise. So hopefully the delays just, it really is about polishing everything and making the game really great. And hopefully that delivers and will kind of shine a more hopeful light on the future of Xbox. Now, what's happened recently...
I don't know. Like, my expectation for Starfield is that it will probably have some bugs, but I just don't think it's going to be a good game. Like, I watched the gameplay, it just didn't look like a good game.
Is that Phil Spencer has come on to Kind of Funny's Xbox podcast to kind of be frank about the current situation with Xbox, with Redfall's launch. Now, I will give Phil Spencer credit here in that not many executives come out and are this frank and this willing to converse about a situation and to be just this upfront about the mistakes that they made. Phil Spencer full-on came out and said, you know, I gotta own my mistakes here. This is on me, and we definitely need to improve our processes. There are some great quotes here that highlights his current mentality on all of this while providing, you know, some bits and pieces of potential insight into
I think this is actually really good in a way that people might not really immediately perceive. I think that it's really good because Phil Spencer taking accountability for it takes the responsibility a little bit away from the developers that were actually, you know, the dudes in the trenches making the game who, yeah, maybe they fucked up a little bit, sure. But, like, the odds are the reason why Redfall was released in the way that it was were decisions that were made by production and people closer to Phil Spencer than the developers. So I think this is really, really good that you have a publisher coming out and taking accountability for a mistake that a game has and problems that the game has. It's actually so good that Phil Spencer did this.
Happen with Redfall and what future plans are, how they plan to adjust to ensure that this doesn't hopefully happen again. So here's a Forbes article that transcribed the Kind of Funny segment really well. Xbox's Phil Spencer addresses Redfall's poor launch. I'm upset with myself, said Phil Spencer. This is the Kind of Funny clip that highlights specifically the Redfall portion, and here are the quotes that you need to keep in mind. There's nothing that's more difficult for me than disappointing the Xbox community and just to watch the community lose confidence, be disappointed. I'm disappointed. I'm upset with...
Let's watch it. Oh, this is a 40-minute video. Holy shit. I thought it was only 3 minutes. Yeah, never mind. I was confused. Yeah, I thought it was just a little bit. Oh my god.
Myself. That's the thing. The confidence in the Xbox platform as a whole has been shaken by just how poorly Redfall launched. You'd think that this being such a major first-party release that Xbox marketed as one of their big showstoppers in one of their presentations not too far back, you know, you'd think that this game would have launched in a much better state, that it wouldn't have launched in such a compromised state. And Phil Spencer goes into the whole 60 FPS stuff that was announced where Redfall launched on consoles without a 60 FPS mode. That was already sure sign that this...
It didn't have 60 FPS? Bro, what year is this? This is crazy. What the fuck is going on?
Game needed to be delayed. On that front, Phil Spencer said, we'll revisit our process back to the announcement of 60 frames per second, and then we weren't shipping 60 frames per second. That was our punch in the chin rightfully a couple weeks ago. And the fact that he's admitting that, yes, people's concerns surrounding that were definitely valid, you know, is nice. But at the same time, you know, at the end of the day, we do need that execution to be improved. We do need those high-quality games to start rolling in. The critical response was not what we wanted. I will pick myself up. What can we learn? How can we be better? And you know what? That's a great...
Stop releasing shit before it's ready. That's how to do it. Stop releasing shit whenever it's bad. Just be like, have people review the game and play it, and that's all there is to it. It's yeah. Stop making games under 60 FPS. Yes, like just stop.
great mentality to have, but you know, Xbox One floundered so much, and Xbox Series is supposed to be Xbox learning from their mistakes, but it feels like they're still in the fumbling and stumbling stages. And hopefully, as they're able to kind of get the ball rolling a bit more with the release of Starfield, and hopefully future game releases from all the different studios that they've acquired whose releases are taking longer than expected, hopefully we'll be able to see Xbox actually learn from their mistakes, but so far it feels like they're still stumbling and fumbling, to the point where some people are questioning right now whether Phil Spencer should remain head of Xbox. Everyone agrees that he's...
I think that, honestly, the fact that Phil Spencer took accountability for this, I think that absolutely he should remain at Xbox. This is one of the only times that we've ever had somebody who's actually one of the heads take accountability for a development studio's mistakes. And I think that is so big for gaming, because like so often people get absolutely like I'll see like developers on Twitter and shit, and they'll be talking like, hey, yeah, I'm excited about this game, and there'll be like responses where people are like, fuck you, you messed this game up, you're trash, you suck, etc. So Phil Spencer, who is, again, the person who's really making the decisions, he's the one who has the real accountability. The developers are just simply doing the best with what they have. And sometimes what they have isn't very good, and sometimes their best isn't that great. Developers are not perfect either. But oftentimes, I think these issues, if you probably asked 10 Redfall developers, was the game ready? Would you have wanted more time? And they could answer honestly. I bet 10 of them would have said yes. I did want more time, and no, it was not ready. And so, yeah, I totally agree with that. They made the mistake of trusting devs. They also tried to do the Sony style, offhands approach, and it backfired. Well, maybe. But either way, him taking accountability for it, I think is very good. I'm very happy about this. I, in general, would be him stepping down for failure to publish a console-selling game in nearly 10 years. He's been head of Xbox. I feel like they've published good games with Xbox before. It's not like they've never published good games. But yeah, I think this is very big W. I'm glad that he did it, even though it's a personal W, and I think it's like an industry-wide W for like how people perceive fault with game development. But of course he failed, because it's his responsibility to make sure this doesn't happen. Did it happen? Yes. Then it's his fault.
Much better than Don Matrick, and again, his forthrightness, I think, is something that's appreciated, but at the same time, you know, we need to see better results. At the end of the day, you know, that's what's going to draw people to platforms, high-quality games. When you're releasing disasters like Redfall, when that's how low the quality bar has been set for first-party releases, it's bound to make people question whether it's worth sticking around for Xbox, whether it's worth...
Yeah, I would agree with that. Somebody else in chat says this: as a software developer, I actually have learned about the release dates for products. I was a manager with my manager at company meetings without consultation on timelines. Yeah, you don't even know. Yeah, we don't talk to the software guys about when the game's going to be ready. We'll just figure that out. You know, and they'll figure it out. It's not a big deal. But no, he's absolutely right.
You know, just having hope that the platform will get...
Why would somebody give a shit about Xbox right now whenever Xbox... And the thing is, PlayStation isn't really that much better. Like, I don't think PlayStation has that many massive, big-selling games right now. But Xbox also has missed with two of their biggest sellers. It is? Spider-Man? No, I don't know. Like... All right. You fucking imagine if Halo Infinite was good and there was a new Gears of War game that was good. All right? I think at that point, I might still choose Xbox. This is what I was going to finish with, is that the fact is that, yes, PlayStation has great exclusives. The biggest one is coming out next month. It's going to be fucking Final Fantasy 16. It's going to be huge. Right? I get what you're saying. But at the same time, I still think that Xbox could compete with that, but they're not. They're not competing with it because they're using garbage. They're making these bullshit games. Where's the new good Gears of War game? Where is it? I don't know. Like, I honestly, at this point, I want to see a new Gears of War game more than I want to see a new Halo game. I don't know what the fuck happened. But I do. I want to see it. Where is it? What's happening? What's going on?
the ball rolling at the level that Sony has with their first-party releases that has compelled so many gamers and drawn so many people into the PlayStation platform. But here's more from Phil Spencer. One thing I'll fight is what went wrong. There is clearly quality and execution things we can do. He keeps it very vague. But he continues that one thing I won't do is push against creative aspirations of our teams. I'm a huge supporter of Arcane Austin. Their track record is awesome. I love a lot of their games that they've built. They didn't hit their own internal goals when it launched. I think it's maybe a little simplistic to say if you would have just delayed it 3 months, the core creative of the game would have delivered on something that was different than what it was. On one hand, I do like that.
I mean, again, like, let's say that they had a vision of the game that was unrealistic. I still think that Phil Spencer and the Xbox team should have known that. They should have been able to identify that. Like, you need to be able to identify that and see, like, hey, this isn't going well. Let's recalibrate here.
That Phil Spencer is committed to ensuring that studios aren't bottlenecked into doing what executives want them to do, but rather that they're allowed to really express themselves however they want to by doing the projects that they feel good about doing, that they genuinely want to do. On the other hand, man, Redfall feels like such a corporately made project. Is that really what Arcane Austin was so passionate about making? Maybe their vision was just so much grander, but they just couldn't execute on it during the process, during the development period, where they had to just scope it down so much more because
I think that's very possible. I mean, you know, development studios aren't perfect either, and they could have fucked up and they could have thought, oh, we're going to do this. Like, remember, I think Blizzard had this happen, right? Blizzard's massive. This was Project Titan. Titan was going to be like this massive game, and then it completely got scrapped and turned into Overwatch. And Blizzard completely scrapped StarCraft Ghost back in like the late I think it was early 2000s.
Time limitations because of just development troubles that, you know, we may or may not find out about. But whatever the case, look, it's great that Arcane Austin was given creative freedom to pursue whatever they wanted, but clearly Arcane Austin, if it was their decision to make this looter shooter with a vampire coat of paint, it clearly wasn't to their strengths. They clearly should not go this route again unless they really feel significantly more confident that they can execute better. This clearly just isn't a genre that they specialize in, and it clearly just did not work out this time.
That's the way it goes.
And so I think the concept of the game itself was a mistake, and I do agree when Phil Spencer says right here that it's simplistic to say that if you would have delayed the game by 3 months, the core creative of the game would have delivered on something that was different than what it was.
But yeah, of course, like, that's true, but like, bro, it was the bugs. Like, if the game was a solid 5 out of 10 forgettable looter shooter, then who would have given a fuck? Nobody would be talking about it anyway. The problem was the bugs. That's what's really bad. The bugs and the playability. Like fuck the creative. That's on them. Like, oh, the game was bad. Well, fuck, right? I mean, they should have made a better game. But it needs to work, though.
Needed was a complete overhaul or a mega enhancement of the foundations that it had. A couple months delay wouldn't have been enough. This game would have definitely been needed to be delayed by a couple years, I'd say, for it to be able to realize a vision that just
and
would
this
be
is one of the problems that I think a lot of big game studios have now, is they've become too big to succeed. The games take so long to develop that by the time the game hits the market's already changed. Yeah, like the market, people are already past that. They've already, like, that fad is done, it's over.
More compelling to play. Unfortunately for Redfall, the core creative of the game, which could not have been changed with just a couple months of delay, was a generic looter shooter, a genre that's becoming much more stale, especially with how saturated the competition is and how much you have to stand out in this landscape with compelling gameplay, a compelling loop of progression, and a compelling rewards give out to make it in this field. And Redfall falls so short of even the most basic quality standards that it really
I think a lot of it is just a lack of creativity and a lack of like internal guidance. Because you look at games like Vampire Survivors, for example. Like, one guy made Vampire Survivors and it was great. So it's not about like, oh, it's so hard to do this. Yes, it is hard. But if you think it's so hard, maybe you shouldn't be doing it. Maybe you don't have the right vision.
It's baffling that this game launched at all in that state. And again, with
Valheim.
Redfall being a first-party
go.
title, and with
5
Xbox
people.
showing a willingness to launch a game in such a dire and incomplete state, it makes people question whether games like Starfield can expect to have a similar type of launch where it's not ready and Xbox is willing to put it out there anyway and take people's money, you know, $70 or whatever. Anyway, Phil Spencer concluded by insisting that support for this game will continue and that they will try to patch it as much as possible.
Dude, and this is what's sad. I remember I was like getting pizza, and these guys were like, "Bro, have you played Battlefield 2042?" And I was like, "Wait, what? Isn't that game that was really bad that sucked?" And they're like, "Yes, dude, but now we're playing it and it's so good, man. It's so fucking good. It's so fun." I'm like, "So they fixed a lot of it?" Like, yeah. And it's like, how many of you guys knew that? Like, before I said that, how many of you guys knew that Battlefield 42 was like, yeah, not me, it's not, I did, some people did, some people didn't. I didn't. And that's the problem, is that you get that first impression of the game being bad, and then even whenever it gets improved in like patch, 2.6.1, well, the game it's a bad game. Why would I play a bad game? Because you already have made up your mind. It's like first impressions.
But I am so sick and tired of this trend. And I do feel like, with something like Star Wars Jedi Survivor, there's a good game underneath all of the technical and performance issues. With Redfall, I feel like no matter what you do in terms of fixing the technical issues, the bugs, the 30 FPS limitations on consoles, it's still ultimately at its core rotten, incomplete. It's at its core not a good game. That cannot be fixed by just some simple patches. They would have to go full No Man's Sky with it and slowly overhaul the title. If they're committed to that, hell, we'll see what happens. But if they're just planning to just add extra content but keep the foundation the same, Redfall will just never recover, which is unfortunate given that...
I think that they should just make the game playable, add in a few things that make the game better and worth it for people that like it, and then move on. I think really, like, because it has such a bad reputation now, you just have to move on.
Arcane have insisted that Redfall would be their most long-term supported game because the idea was to make this a compelling looter shooter that people will come back to for years to come. But I get the sense that this game is gonna die off pretty quickly because of how meager the reception has been.
Let's see how the viewership for the game is, or sorry, player base for the game is now. I don't know if this will be a good way to check or not. Certainly not great. It's on Xbox. Oh, okay, yeah. I didn't really know. I didn't buy the game. Because, like, whenever I woke up, I just saw all this bad stuff about it, and so I was like, oh, I don't want to buy this because it's bad. Can't see Game Pass users? Yeah, it's too bad.
And, in turn, how meager the player base likely is at this point. In fact, going to SteamDB and looking at the all-time peak players since launch, 6,124 players is really, really poor results.
I do think that, again, you're talking about extrapolation. So if you're looking at an all-time peak of 6,000 and then a 1,500 player base and like a 2,000 peak, you're seeing probably like a 60 to 70% downturn in average concurrent players if you extrapolate this data and assume that these percentages will be the same across all other platforms. So yeah, like, I think this is probably accurate in that way.
A game that is supposed to be a major AAA first-party release that's supposed to be this looter shooter that is supposed to keep people engaged for a long time to come. And, we're already in the low thousands of people playing right now. This already goes to highlight that Redfall has probably sold very poorly, will not meet Xbox's expectations, and it'll be a big financial loss for Xbox, for Arcane, is what I'm predicting. But anyway, here's what Phil Spencer said about the post-launch of Redfall. The team at Arcane is taking the near-term feedback. We're still working on the 60 FPS. We have a good timeline for that. We're committed to getting...
I'm glad they're at least fixing some stuff. Somebody says, can't make this assumption here. Steam encourages you to refund quickly. Xbox players don't have an incentive to stop playing. Well, I think they do if the game is bad. So you think there's more? Okay, so maybe they only lost 50% of their population. I think losing over 50%, like somewhere around 50% of their population instead of 60 to 70% is still astronomically bad within 3 days of the game coming out. Like, that's still really, really fucking bad.
That done, and we're going to continue to work the game. Again, just putting 60 FPS in there on consoles is not going to save this from being a bad game. I think we're going to continue to work the game. We've shown commitment to games like Sea of Thieves and Grounded to continue to build games, but I also know these games are $70, and I'm going to take full responsibility for launching a game that needs to be great at that price point. This game is definitely not worth $70. They should discount it right now and either refund people fully for those who are so dissatisfied with the game.
There's no way that's going to happen, but I do think they should discount it. Because asking people to pay the new... like, I don't think anybody's going to have a problem paying $70 for the new God of War. Nobody's going to have a problem paying $70 for Armored Core 6. Nobody's going to have a problem paying $70 for Legend of Zelda Tears of the Kingdom. But people do have a problem paying $70 for one of these, like, scuffed games that people don't really give a shit about that much. I think that's really what the issue is. Right? Smaller games that are not delivering a quality product with a massive pedigree behind it.
They don't want to play it anymore, or they should at the very least offer partial refunds for those who bought it at launch and are deciding to give this game a chance in the long term, wait until, you know, it gets patched or it gets some content updates and whatever. I just don't know how we're reaching $70 levels of price point for games and launching them the way that they've been launching, especially on PC. PC ports have been dreadful, you know, with Redfall, with freaking Star Wars Jedi Survivor. Again, a good game underneath all of the technical issues, but it runs terribly on PC. The Last of Us Part 1 PC port also had technical issues with the PC port, and man, the list goes on and on.
I think people that are PC gamers are just tired of buying a product that doesn't work. Like, anytime that you sell somebody something that's bad, they're not going to be happy. Like, you buy a game, and you try to play it, it doesn't work. It's laggy. Well, okay, now you're mad. Like, there's not, like, a lot to this. It's that simple.
And it's a trend that's highly unfortunate. But with Redfall specifically, I feel like there was quite a lot riding on it because of its first-party nature and because Xbox has been deprived and kind of starved for first-party content, high-quality first-party content to come out that can compete on the level of Sony's first-party releases. But currently, you know, nothing of the sort has happened on Xbox's front. So, look, I appreciate Phil Spencer's candor. I appreciate the fact that he's willing to come on and actually have...
Yeah, again, I think it's great that he's taking accountability for this rather than just letting the devs fend for themselves. Because the odds are, yeah, the game probably, like, yeah, the foundation of the game, let's say it's garbage. Absolutely. You're totally right. You can take the L on that. But the developers will absolutely take the L on the foundation of the game being garbage. They failed to realize a vision that resonates with the consumer base. Obviously, that's their fault. However, with bugs and things being released too early, the bugs are a separate problem. And I don't think that they were caused by anything else other than probably a too strict deadline.
Conversation, admit his mistakes, and you know, admit that there are still things that need to be improved. But I just feel like we've done this whole song and dance, and it's like, how much longer do we have to wait before we feel like Xbox is starting to get on some kind of roll? Hopefully, Starfield will be the spark that will light this fire, because right now this fire is waning and it is going off like a broken light bulb. It's still very much an anti-consumer thing that's happened here, and so a lot needs to be rectified. There's an uphill battle that Xbox needs to fight right now to garner confidence again from the gaming crowd, and I'm keeping my fingers crossed that, you know, that Xbox and Phil Spencer can somehow make it happen. I think more competition is better. Xbox just really needs to, you know, they really need to start pulling some W's here. But that is one man's take. Let me know in the comments below what your thoughts and opinions are on what...
Yeah, like right now, I just, like, why would I buy an Xbox? Like, I don't see a reason to buy an Xbox.
Phil Spencer had to say about the launch of Redfall, what you think about the general state of Xbox currently, and whether you think there's a path and a road for Xbox to recover from what's been a rather terrible past few weeks for the platform and the company. Share your thoughts in the comments below, and to be further updated on all things gaming news, reviews, and discussions, stay tuned right here on Young Yeah. I'll see you guys next time. Young out.
All right. So, you already have one. It's called a PC. Well, just overall, I mean, like, I just don't... I feel like PlayStation just has more advantages. I feel like the console is better. They have better exclusive games. Like, even if I didn't have a PC, like, let's say PC gaming is out of the question. Would I rather have a PlayStation or an Xbox? I think PlayStation 5 is better. Like, I'm sorry, I just think it is. And this is coming from somebody who, again, like, I'm a huge fan of Xbox. I love Xbox. But I just don't think it's that great. I do think Game Pass is probably, I don't know. It seems to me, I haven't looked at, like, every game on Game Pass, but it certainly seems to me like Game Pass has a better offering than what PlayStation has. Like, with the, like, PlayStation Gaming Pass, whatever their version of it is. So Game Pass is tremendous. Sure. Xbox fell the fuck off. Well, it's because, again, like, what were the biggest IPs of Xbox? For me, at least, it was Gears and Halo. And there's no good Halo, and there's no good Gears. So, what the fuck? Like, it's that simple. Fable, yeah, where's Fable? Where's the new Fable? I don't know. I don't see it. Where is it? So, it's just like, of course people are pissed. Overall, I'm really glad to see, obviously, Phil Spencer taking accountability rather than just letting the dev studio get completely shit on. I do hope that, just overall, I hope that gamers can start actually refunding bad games.